All right, so now that you know what's wrong with me, let's talk about how did I end up here. Part of the reason why it took me close to 20 years to figure this out is because there is very little information out there about histamine intolerances. Think about it. Most of you know about lactose intolerance. You know about gluten because gluten intolerance is like the big, I guess, intolerance right now. In fact, almost all the doctors who kind of wanted to help me, the first thing that they would tell me is just take gluten out of your diet and it'll fix itself. Well, guess what? I did a gluten-free diet and it didn't fix me. It slightly improved some of my conditions, but it never got rid of everything, and then sometimes caused me issues elsewhere. Why? Because it wasn't the problem I was dealing with. So let me go ahead by starting off 18 years ago or 19 years ago, something like that, when this all kind of got started. So when I was an undergrad, I was living in Tennessee at the time, and I started to notice that my skin started to dry out. It was very, very dry to the point where it would just flake. And all behind this left ear, it would flake so much to the point where it would bleed. And then I also had gigantic sheets of dandruff in my hair. And, you know, we were in a part of the town where there weren't that many black people. I couldn't just go to a black beautician or whatnot because they just didn't have a lot of them there. And so I figured, like, maybe folks around here just don't know how to treat my hair. That's why I have such bad dandruff. And, you know, I dealt with it for years because I didn't know what else to do. And then finally, like my senior year in college, I went through a semester where I coughed every single day and I couldn't quite figure it out. And one of my roommates at the time gave me a Benadryl. It was like, oh, you know, you just have allergies and whatnot. And I was like, probably do, I guess so. And it's something that I just dealt with for a few years. I then moved back home to Louisiana and eventually ended up moving to New Orleans. And there was a huge marsh fire in town, and I got to the point where I could not breathe, and again I would stay up all night just coughing and coughing and coughing. The only way I could get some relief is to sit straight up in the bed at night and go to sleep like that, and it was terrible. So that was like the first time I decided, let's go to the doctor. I went to my primary care. She said, oh honey, you've got allergies. This is what this is. She sends me off to the allergy doctor. He takes one look at me like this. He's like, you don't have allergies. You've got some crazy thing that I can't even remember the name because it was like this long. I thought, man, am I dying or something? He sends me to the ENT, whose primary responsibility was to scope me and figure out what was going on. So he scoped me. He said, your airways are super inflamed, but he's like, this is just allergies. I'm like, okay. So they sent me back to the allergy doctor, and then finally they said, yes, you have a ragweed and marsh grass allergy, and that's all that this is. That's it. And for me, it made sense because guess what? There was a marsh fire happening at the time, and it was very, very bad. So I said, okay, I got this allergy. It is what it is. I'll take allergy medicine when I need it, and that is just what I did to cope with it for years. But I also started noticing every single time that I would go to Atlanta, which is where the company I was working for at the time was headquartered, I would just end up with these crazy headaches. And so we progressed from just the allergies to now I'm having constant headaches every time that I'm traveling or going places. And it just became very aggravating. But again, everybody's like, oh, you just have allergies. So I just kept taking the meds. I kept taking the medicine. Anytime I had a headache, I'd take some sinus medicine, and that would be the end of it. And it kind of became part of my life. And here's the thing, when you are in dis-ease for a very long time, your needle of homeostasis begins to move. So I had gotten so used to having headaches and allergies and so forth that I took that little needle of homeostasis and I moved it a little bit to the right. And then this became my new normal. And this is what happens anytime that you have a prolonged issue. You begin to think that feeling normal feels like something other than what it is. And so anytime I just didn't have a headache, I was like, oh, I'm feeling normal. When in reality, there used to be a time in my life where I never had sinus headaches. I never had allergies. I never had any of those things. Now, also around that time, I can't remember if it was before or after that doctor's visit. Charge it to my mind. It's been years, you guys, so I don't really remember. But I do know it was the same year. I had a really, really, really severe case of food poisoning. So bad that my mom had to pick me up, take me home. I had to get 2 IVs of fluid to get my fluid back up. I was out there bad. I was really out there bad. But again, I never really thought about how that particular incident would affect my life way down the line. So we're going to circle back to this at the end of the story. All right. So a few years later, I start to get like really achy all the time. My muscles are starting to go to mush. I'm starting to be always in a lot of pain. Go to physical therapy and they say, hey, you just have weak posture muscles. You need to work out. And if you work out, it'll go away. So that's when I started to lose the weight. I made significant changes in my life. And you know what? A lot of the symptoms I was dealing with started to improve. I was like, this is the answer. This is, what's happening. They were still there though. I would still have pain. It just wasn't as strong as it used to be. And I would still have the sinus headaches, but they were less frequent. And around that time, I had made a lot of changes to my diet, which incidentally, now that I look back on it, a lot of the foods that I had pulled out of my diet at that point in my life were histamine causing foods, but I didn't realize it. I just did it because I said, hey, these are some healthy changes. And that is why a lot of my symptoms started to subside. So I lose all of that weight. I got into bodybuilding. I'm having fun with my life. I'm at the lowest weight of my life. Still have these lingering issues, but they're manageable. And then 2017 happened. Around late 2017, I went to a friend's party. She had a little birthday party gathering. And I was prepping for a bodybuilding competition at the time, so I did not intend to drink that night. My goal was to go in, say my hellos, have a little bit of a good time, but to leave. I already had my plan in place and so forth. But when I got there, everybody was like, Amber, take a shot with us. Okay, so against my better judgment, I went ahead and I took the shot. All right, it was one shot of vodka. And while I was at the party, I was feeling fine. But on my way home, all of a sudden my stomach started to make a few noises. And remember, I told you earlier, if you have a problem with the word diarrhea, get ready. All right. So I get home and it turns into explosive diarrhea. Diarrhea is so bad that I ended up losing like almost 10 pounds in a couple of days. I decided I'm not going to do the bodybuilding competition coming up because I felt awful for days. And I knew it wasn't food poisoning or anything like that. So I just put it in the back of my mind. I said, hey, it's never happened before. You've had alcohol before. This is probably just something out of the blue. So then I tried wine not too long later. And again, same results. I ended up having explosive diarrhea, again, losing all kinds of weight. And I'm like, this isn't healthy. But I didn't know what to do about it. All right. I wasn't having issues with anything else, just alcohol. So I took the alcohol out of my diet and I said, I'm just not going to drink it anymore. It's not like I need it. So I stopped drinking cold turkey. All right. And then something else really weird started happening around the same time. My nails. The nail of my bed started to separate from the actual nail. And so that little white part would go all the way down to the bottom. And so my nails became really, really weak and they started to break off in big chunks and they looked really nasty. So I did the only thing I could. I stopped getting my nails done and did the best I could to doctor them. But they would reconnect and then do it all over again in a few weeks. In fact, the routine then became, I would wake up in the morning with pain in my fingers, then the nail bed would turn red, and then it would just disconnect from the nail bottom. And this routine went on for years. So finally, 2019, I finally decide I'm going to go find myself a different dermatologist. I didn't tell you in the beginning, but I did go to a dermatologist years before this, who just told me all I had was dandruff. She diagnosed me with dandruff. Is that a thing? But whatever. After doing that, I really didn't want to go to another dermatologist, but I did. I waited 2 months to get in to see a black dermatologist because the first one telling me I just had dandruff, I said, I need to go to a woman who has hair like mine so we could discuss this, we could discuss all of the flaking, and we discussed nails. She diagnosed me with psoriasis. She said, hey, take the gluten out of your diet. It's an inflammatory and it might help this situation out, but there's nothing else that we can do other than to treat you orally. And they gave me Otezla. So I get home, I start taking the Otezla, and all of a sudden I'm sitting at the table with a rapid heartbeat. The Otezla kicked my butt. So I dropped off that medication. I just said, I'm just going to deal with these nails because I've never been on a medication that hit me that particularly hard. And I'm thinking, it can't get any worse, right? But as this story would go, you already know it's about to get worse. So then one day, macaroni and cheese. Y'all, I love macaroni and cheese. I love macaroni and cheese. I've been eating it my whole life. All of a sudden, every night after I would eat, and it was never immediately after, I never have had immediate reactions because I don't have allergies, okay? So I would eat macaroni and then I would lay in my bed and my whole body would be on fire. It's like a skin flushing, and it's even hard for me to describe to you, so you can imagine what my doctors looked at me, what the faces they gave me when I would try to explain this. But it's like you have this big flushing feeling going on throughout your entire body. It would start here and just go down, and it was like just like whew, and it was like fire rolling through my body and up. And sometimes my skin would even get just red all over, and it I was like, what in the world is this? And it would only happen around that food. Then, stewed chicken and rice, something I absolutely love, all of a sudden it started to bother me. And then grilled chicken breast, which I've been eating forever, all of these things would set my stomach on fire. And then I would sit in the bed at night with a flushing, constant flushing feeling that would get really, really bad around my periods. So it would escalate around my periods. So then I go to the gynecologist. I said, hey, I keep experiencing this flushing feeling in and around my periods and so forth. She's like, oh, your estrogen just must be all over the place. Her response was just to put me on this birth control that I go to the pharmacy, it was like $200 a month. I was like, I don't know what kind of birth control this is. So I was like, I'm not taking that. So, again, we're treating another symptom. I've gone to the allergy doctor. Hey, we'll just treat your allergies. I'm going to the gynecologist. Oh, I'm just going to treat your estrogen. But here's the problem. And what I didn't know then that I know now, there was one thing that was causing all of this. And we couldn't fix it because we were too busy treating symptoms. So you can see how I'm collecting medications at this time. I want you to think about people who are on a ton of medications and how they end up that way. All right, so now I've accumulated 3 allergy medicines. I've accumulated Otezla for the dermatologist, which I stopped taking it. Then I'm now accumulating this new, different kind of birth control to even out all of my estrogen so I'm not having hot flashes. And guess what? None of it's working. But anyways, I'm accumulating all of these medicines, and yet and still my story is not done because it progresses even further. I then start to develop this crazy amount of anxiety. I'd sit in my bed and I would think about something, and then boom, all of the symptoms would hit me all at once. So I'm thinking, well, maybe it's stress, maybe I'm stressed. So I'm going to acupuncture, I'm going to therapy, I'm doing all of these things because I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. And the only therapies that ever gave me any help were those that were outside of modern medicine. So when I go to acupuncture, when I go to therapy, those things were giving me real legit relief. But again, they didn't get rid of everything. So that's how we got here today. I'm at a point where I'm on all these medications. Nothing is working. I'm at a point where I can no longer work out. And if you know me, y'all, I was working out almost every other day. I was getting to the point where I couldn't do the things that I loved. And so I dropped on my knees and I said, universe, I have no idea what's going on. I did my part. You kind of owe me now. Do yours. Tell me where to go. Tell me what to do. Tell me what it is that you need me to do. And so I did that meditation. I really did. And I flipped open my Facebook because, y'all, they listening to everything we type anyways. And then boom, a company pops up in the advertisement who does functional medicine. In fact, it was Gritwell Health. If you want to know who it is, I'll put it, in the comments below. So I said, what do I have to lose? So I applied to it. When I found out it was only going to be like $150 or something, I decided to just sign up because I said, if they suck, I only lost this much. You want to know how much I lost at the allergy doctor? Between the allergy doctors and the dermatologists and so forth, I paid close to $400 to $500 out of pocket. Okay, that doesn't include the money that they got from my insurance company. This was with my insurance. I paid close to $500 this year alone. Okay, not the past 20 years, this year alone, out of pocket, simply to be told, nothing's wrong with you. It's all in your head. Blah, 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 blah. So I did. All right. And so I go in, I have the meeting with my practitioner. She says, I need you to start in 1984. I was like, excuse me? She said, we got to go back to the beginning. We have got to get to the root cause of what's bothering you. And y'all, instantly, I felt relieved. I felt happy. I felt excited because for the first time, somebody was listening to me. And they spent more than 5 or 10 minutes with me to listen to my story. And that's what we did. And then we ran across, if you recall from earlier, I said we were going to circle back to this. We ran across that one little issue that I had in 2008, the food poisoning. And she said, it's possible. She said, I can't say with certainty, but you probably decimated your gut in 2008 during that sickness, and it never fully healed the way you needed it to. And to this day, you probably have leaky gut, which is driving up your histamine levels. And boom, y'all, that is how we got here. So she suggested that I do, an elimination diet, where we're going to pull out all of the histamine foods, and we're pulling out all of the foods that liberate histamine in the body, and we're pulling out the foods that block the enzymes that break down histamine. That leaves me with a whole lot of nothing to eat, but I've been getting creative and so forth and making it happen. But that is how we got to here, and I'm so excited to detail this journey because I know I'm going to help someone else. So in the subsequent videos, I'm going to talk about what I've been eating. I'm going to talk about what histamine intolerance actually is, and I'm going to kind of take you through my daily routine. I just didn't want to put it all in the same video because it's going to be a super long video. So anyways, check out the next video. If you're watching me on YouTube, you know I'll post the video at the top. If you're on Instagram, you're either going to have to swipe or you're going to have to go to the next video. And if you're on Facebook, you're going to have to then go to, whatever the next post is. But stay connected with me. All right. See you later.